Bars with Andrew Bone. I'm Mick Gillespie. That was a quick open, but we're glad to be back. That's because, Bone, we want to get back and talk to everyone. It's time for recruiting with Andrew Bone here on the Bamainsider YouTube channel. Reminding all of you guys to like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. That's a way of saying roll tide, as Bone and I will dig deep into Alabama's recruiting, including a big weekend and a bunch of visitors in to see Texas A&M. Hit the bell so you know every time we're live on the Bamainsider YouTube channel. You can get all of Bone's top information and nuggets at Bamainsider.com on $10 for just a year. And that's a deal that even Bone and I can afford right there, or $1 for 4 months. What is up, brother? How you been?
Been good. It's kind of, people aren't going to believe this, but, I went to my first Alabama game of the season this past weekend.
Really?
So, we go to pretty much, most of the games. And I guess when you have a kid, it kind of throws a wrench into things. But, my son's been sick, not anything major, but
kids sick.
Kids are sick. 1-year-olds are sick all the time when they go to daycare. So, when you go to daycare, you get sick. It's the end of the week. You're like, oh, all right, we're not going to go this weekend. So last weekend, finally able to go down to Tuscaloosa. People probably don't know I live in Birmingham, but we were able to go down to Tuscaloosa and enjoy the game. And we had, my mother-in-law kept our son for the evening at home, so we saw Coleman and a few other guys down there. I know you're familiar with them, so.
Yeah, come on, man. Of course I know Coleman.
We had a good time out in T-Town, and obviously going to the game, and then.
Did you go by Unique? Is that where you saw Coleman?
Yeah, we stopped by Unique. We
we
tried to get in Galette's for a minute, but of course
too late.
I know some people over there, but I said, I was just like, no, we're not going to do this today. It was just insane. I even texted one of my buddies who's one of the owners, and he was at Unique. So I was like, we're going to just come down there and hang out today. And so it was good because we were able to go down there, have some drinks, kind of spread out a little bit, have some room. Didn't have, wasn't too crowded. I know, my wife's always mad when we don't go get a Yellowhammer, but we had a good time. And
got to do what you got to do, Bone. Well, we missed you at Innisfree on Friday, and it was, of all the times I've ever done the show, Friday was the top day at Innisfree I've ever had. I mean, of any of the bars we've been at, that was. And I've had some great times. Not like I haven't had good times, but Tripp and those guys took great care of us.
Well, Tripp's, every time I see Tripp, he takes really, really good care of me. So I would strongly recommend anybody watching the show, if you're in Tuscaloosa or you're in Birmingham, stop by Innisfree, because those guys will take care of you. That's for sure.
All right, Bone, let's talk about some of the big visitors besides you that were in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. Give us a recap of everything that went on Saturday recruiting-wise. And let's start with Keon Keeley. The world of Alabama and the world around Keon Keeley wondering if he's going to end up at Alabama with the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, I don't know how many people cared about my my drinking escapades on Saturday, but we sure had a good time catching up with a lot of recruits, the following day and the following days. I mean, we're still, doing a lot of interviews, talking to a lot of kids, and, obviously, great weekend, exciting atmosphere, even though we didn't expect the game to turn out the way that it did as far as the score. Alabama still won the game, but everybody was kind of going into it thinking it was going to be this blowout. But, because it was a close game, because it was such a wild environment and it was loud, that was something that a lot of recruits got to enjoy. They got to, really be into the game, the entire time, rather than just, watching half of a game, it being, a 20, 30 point, lead, and then, they decide to leave. They were able to, really experience that, the entire game and celebrate and, really get into the action. So, Keon Keeley was one of the, 4 official visitors. There were originally supposed to be 5 official visitors, but Alabama commitment Raymond Polito got sick on Thursday night. He's okay, but got a little sick, decided to push things back. So only 4 official visitors in Tuscaloosa this past weekend. 2 of them were commitments in Eli Holstein and Miles McVay. But then you had 5-star edge rusher Keon Keeley, one of Alabama's premier targets in this recruiting class, has been a major target for Alabama since January. Ends up decommitting from Notre Dame. After his unofficial visit to Alabama in late July. And, that's kind of when all the wheels started moving in motion for the Crimson Tide. Now, he was never going to make a decision right away. He wanted to take a step back from recruiting. He wanted to take some visits. He visited Ohio State twice, including his official, visited Florida once. He had this Alabama-Texas A&M game circled on his calendar for a very, very long time. This was a game that he was always going to come to. This was a game that, many expected him to not necessarily commit, but potentially commit shortly afterwards. And, we're going to be watching things with Keeley over the next, week or two, see how things might play out, because I do think a decision is happening, relatively soon. Now, we'll see if he ends up taking another official visit. Florida's still trying to get him in either this weekend or next, but we'll see if that happens. But I do think everything went really well with Keeley this past weekend. We've got a great in-depth interview with Keon on Bamainsider.com right now. Joseph Hastings actually went and saw Keeley shortly after he got back to Tampa yesterday. A lot of great things to say. He spent a lot of time with Will Anderson. You see him rushing off the edge there. Exactly what Will Anderson, Dallas Turner do, and that's kind of how Alabama sees him in their defense. So he loved hearing that, loved knowing how they're going to use him, and I certainly think that Alabama's got a great chance there.
Yeah, he's a beast, no doubt about it, and we'll see how that turns out for the Crimson Tide. Another guy in town, a 5-star guy, was the number 1 tight end in the country, and that would be Deuce Robinson. Do you consider him still a long shot for Alabama? How did his official visit go?
I think it went good. This is a guy that has visited Alabama 3 times now. Was in Tuscaloosa with his parents. I still think it's probably a long shot. I think this is a guy who's going to stay a little bit closer to home. He lives in Arizona and Phoenix. Excuse me, I got something in my throat. Georgia is on that short list. USC, Texas, got some family in Texas, so could end up being a Longhorn. I think he likes the way that JT Sanders has been playing there. Obviously, likes the way Georgia uses its tight end. Cam Latu had a touchdown reception in the game on Saturday night, but in the end, I think he stays a little bit closer to home. I think USC's probably has the edge there, but we'll see. I don't think it's going to be Alabama. I think he had a great trip, but never really expected Alabama to be, in that top 2 whenever that decision was made. And, still don't think that's the case right now.
Oh, we'll keep an eye on that as it moves forward. Guys, like and subscribe as you hang out with Andrew Bone and me, Mick Gillespie, on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying roll tide as we talk to you here on a Tuesday night, Tuesday at 8 o'clock. That's when we get together with you. And in the comment sections, love to see you guys. Jarvis and Sean and Dean, all you guys that are sending messages and asking questions and all that, Brock, man, we appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much for being here as Andrew Bone talks recruiting. And again, you can get all the nuggets, all the breaking information with Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, the entire On3 crew. Bamainsider.com, $10 gets you an entire year. So take advantage of that now as we talk recruiting here on a Tuesday night. Anytime you have such a marquee game in Tuscaloosa, it's going to attract top prospects, top commits that are guys that are going somewhere else, but they want to come and see what Tuscaloosa is all about. Were any of those guys in town?
Yeah, absolutely. There were definitely some guys who were committed elsewhere in Tuscaloosa, including Centurion Perkins, the number 1 player in the state of Mississippi. This is a guy that we thought was about to flip to Alabama back in mid-July. We have a story on Bamainsider.com right now with Centurion Perkins an interview about his weekend in Tuscaloosa, kind of, what he plans on doing moving forward. He even mentioned in that interview that he was very close to flipping to Alabama in July, decided to hold off, but Alabama still, full steam ahead with Perkins. They really like him a lot, inside linebacker target for the Crimson Tide. And he's going to be in Tuscaloosa at least a couple more times this season before the early signing period. He plans on taking an official visit in December. But I certainly encourage all of you, go check out the interview with Perkins on Bamainsider.com, because, he shed a lot of light on the weekend in T-Town, shed some light on where things currently stand in his recruitment. Now, he's going to be back in Oxford this weekend, but he'll be back in Tuscaloosa next week. And then, he had some other interesting things to say, about where things stand with Alabama, where he stands with his recruitment right now. So definitely, definitely big for Alabama to get him back on campus, because, when he didn't flip to Alabama in July or in August, then he started taking down his post about Alabama and photos. He had changed his profile photo on Twitter from him being in an Alabama jersey back to an Ole Miss jersey. He's been very pro Ole Miss on social media for the last couple months. But him going back to Alabama this weekend certainly proved that there's still high interest there. He also mentioned that he talks to Pete Golding just about every single day. So definitely a lot to kind of dive into in that interview. So I encourage you guys to go read that tonight or tomorrow. But yeah, I still think Alabama remains a very realistic threat to the Rebels for Centurion Perkins.
Keeping an eye on a guy committed to Florida, defensive lineman Kelby Collins. What do you think about him? Someone else Alabama's focused on.
Yeah, I've said this a bunch of times throughout the year. I said, going into this recruiting class, felt like there was two guys in the state that were definitely going to end up in Alabama's class, and that was Peter Woods, who committed to Clemson, and then Kelby Collins, who commits to Florida. You don't miss out on those type of guys that grew up, diehard Alabama fans, guys who, played, on the defensive line, a position where Alabama certainly prioritized in this class, and two guys who have been going to Tuscaloosa for the last 3 years. So it was kind of shocking when not only one, but both of them ended up committing to out-of-state programs. But Kelby Collins made it back to Alabama this past weekend, and it was just an unofficial visit. So he still has an official visit to use if he wants to a little bit down the road. But I do think we're going to see him back in Tuscaloosa at least one more time this season. Now, he hasn't talked to anybody since the visit. Joseph ended up speaking to his brother, who was also in town for an unofficial visit. And just from talking to him, it kind of seemed like not necessarily that Kelby was thinking about flipping, but he is kind of torn about the decision that Alabama still very much in contention for him. This is a school that he grew up loving, that he grew up going and visiting, going to games even when he was younger. His family's, they're all Alabama fans. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how things move forward. Now, Alabama, talked to him this weekend, sat down with him, frankly told him, hey, you still have a spot in this class. So if you want to come, you better get on board, because it's starting to fill up fast. And we'll see how things go over the next month or two with Kelby, but I do think Alabama remains a very realistic threat. Now, I've got a little bit more on Kelby on Bama Insider. I didn't want to give away too much, but I dropped my insider report earlier today, breaking down everything about the weekend in T-Town with all these guys. And we'll mention a lot of these guys tonight. I won't go into great in-depth detail. Save that for Bama Insider. So for only $10, like we said, you can go get all of that. Plus an entire year's subscription to Bama Insider, and get all of our stuff, all of mine and Joseph Hastings' recruiting content, plus Clint Lamb and Jimmy Stein, and obviously our entire Bama Insider and On3 network coverage. So certainly go on there and check that out. But yeah, Kelby Collins still very much in play for Alabama after this weekend.
Really exciting kind of seeing how this class is unfolding right after Alabama has already amassed the number one class thus far and trying to kind of polish it off with some of these top guys. How about four-star linebacker Arian Carter? I know he received an offer from Alabama last month.
Yeah, Aaron Carter definitely has seen his stock rise a lot. Really since that Alabama offer. I mean, he's picked up so many offers; it's hard to name them all. He's still committed to Memphis, which a little surprised by that, just because he's going to be taking his official visits over the course of the next month. I know he's got Michigan, Tennessee, LSU, Alabama, all coming up here in the next month or so. He's going to take that official visit to Alabama for the Iron Bowl, but he visited Alabama again this past weekend. It was the second time he's visited this season. He grew up an Alabama fan, and I certainly think that Alabama's got a great chance to land him. Now, a lot of people have been asking me, and they've been posting on the board, does Arian Carter's decision potentially affect some of these other guys Alabama's recruiting, especially at linebacker, because there's a lot of linebacker recruits still in the fold for the Tide. We talked about one earlier in Centurion Perkins. Keon Keeley is an outside linebacker, edge rusher. Quay Rousseau, definitely still, still very high on Alabama's wish list, and he's very high on Alabama. Damon Wilson out of Venice High School, an edge rusher, outside linebacker. I think things are probably trending in another direction for him. He just took an official visit to Georgia. I kind of think he's going to end up going elsewhere. I would lean Georgia, but not 100% sure. But I don't think it's going to be Alabama. So, Arian Carter, I think a decision could potentially happen before all these official visits are over. But as of right now, he plans on taking those 5 officials and then making a decision. As of right now, I am leaning towards Alabama. I still think Alabama would take several linebacker commitments. They have 2, Justin Jefferson and Yanze Pierre, 2 guys that they're really excited about. But they're not going to say no to Quay Rousseau. They're not going to say no to Arian Carter. They're not going to say no to Centurion Perkins. And they're definitely not going to say no to Keon Keeley. So it is very possible that they could add 4 more linebackers to this class, which people are saying, there's no chance of that happening. The numbers won't work out. Don't worry about the numbers. I've always said this. Don't worry about the numbers. Let Alabama worry about the numbers, because you can sign as many guys as you want to in this class. You just better have 85 guys on scholarship next year. So there's going to be guys who end up transferring. There's going to be guys who end up leaving early for the NFL draft that we probably aren't even expecting right now. That happens every single year. There's going to be guys
like Slade Bolden.
Yeah, there's going to be guys who transfer that we're not talking about as likely transfers right now. So it's going to happen. And so Alabama's going to take as many kids as they possibly can get this year. I would not rule out 4 linebackers, because these are the 4 guys that they really want, that they're really going after, that they're pressing hard for. They're pressing hard for Damon Wilson. But like I said, I don't think he's going to end up in Tide's class. But these are the 4 guys they're really going after. If all 4 of them want to commit, trust me, all 4 of them have a spot to commit in this class.
Yeah, I love to hear that. And you're right. Look, the days of, having a solid 85 are over. I mean, you talk about guys leaving for the NFL. I threw Slade Bolden out there. Boy, I wish he would have stayed at Alabama, but he went to be on the practice squad of an NFL team, and he's not here. Have guys transfer all the time. There'll be a big list at the end of the season, so it's good to bring in these new guys. What about Tyler Scott? He's senior defensive back from Georgia. Where's Alabama with him right now?
Well, we just offered. This is a 6'2", 185-pound cornerback out of Pebblebrook High School in Mableton, Georgia. We talked about him. I guess I dropped a hint on the board a few weeks ago that Alabama was, really interested in him, that he was going to come in for an unofficial visit, came to Tuscaloosa over the weekend, didn't get an offer immediately from Alabama. He was kind of expecting it. Deuce Robinson had gone out and seen him play, had invited him to campus. And I think Tyler expected when he made it to campus that the offer was going to happen, and it didn't happen. And we talked to him on Monday evening, and a little disappointed, which is understanding. A little disappointed, but then about an hour later, He got the call. It was kind of just a little bit of a miscommunication because Tyler got to Alabama a little later in the day on Saturday. Didn't get a chance to talk to Coach Saban. And so Coach Saban wanted to talk to him. He's the one that wanted to sit down with him, wanted to extend the offer. It just didn't happen. Didn't have time. I had to go to the game, obviously, and Tyler didn't stick around afterwards. So Coach Saban had planned on talking to him this week. And we ended up talking to Tyler a little bit before Coach Saban did. So he was a little upset, but after the offer came through, he was really excited. We'll see how things go with him. There's still a couple other guys that Alabama certainly wants in this class at the cornerback position, including Malik Muhammad, who's currently committed to Texas, and Cormani McClain, the number one cornerback in the country. Both of those guys potentially will take an unofficial visit to Alabama in the coming weeks, possibly even next weekend, and then take their official visits to Alabama in December. So, I think with Tyler Scott, this is a guy that Alabama has identified they like a lot. Mm-hmm. They're going to bring him on campus, for an official visit, probably a little bit down the road. They're going to try to get Malik Muhammad and Cormani in town before their official visits, kind of figure out where things are with those guys. Obviously, Malik probably a little bit tougher since he's committed to Texas, lives in Texas, but this is also a guy who has been to Alabama, so many times. Even said that Alabama was his number 2 school. Still in regular contact with Deuce Robinson. I think he said his dad talks to him just about every other day. So Alabama's still kind of chipping away, trying to see if they can potentially flip him away from the Longhorns. But obviously a little easier said than done. So we'll see how that happens. And then obviously with Cormani McClain, the number 1 corner in the country, there's a lot of talk that Florida is in the lead for him. But I don't want to say that that's wrong, but I also don't think Alabama should be ruled out at all. And there's some people who still think Alabama's in the driver's seat. I think it's very close. I'm not ready to make a prediction one way or the other with Cormani McClain because I think it's very close. He hasn't taken his official visits yet, so you got to kind of wait, see how those play out in the coming months, and just see what happens because he's going to wait until December to make that decision. There was some talk that he was going to decide during the season, some talk that he was going to decide during the summer. He held off, so now it looks like he's going to wait, decide in December, take those official visits. Have those in-home visits with Nick Saban, with Billy Napier, with these other coaching staffs that are really coming after him, that really want him. Mario Cristobal. Who's he going to be able to say no to in the end? That's kind of the biggest question. So we'll see. But Alabama is still very much involved with Cormani. They are in. Like I said, I don't want to say they're in the lead. I don't want to say they're behind, but they are right there in the thick of things with Cormani, and there's still a long way to go in his recruitment.
Going to talk about a guy from the Gainesville area, but before we do, let me ask you again to like and subscribe as you hang out with us on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Every Tuesday night, we have our show Recruiting with Andrew Bone, and you guys love to watch it. I love to just listen to what Bone has to say. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying Roll Tide. Hit the bell so you know every time that we have a show drop. Earlier today, Jay Barker and I got together for news and notes. You got Kyle Henderson on here. You got Nick Saban's press conferences. When the players talk, we have that. The Tailgate Show airs here every Friday night. You get to watch it before everyone else gets to hear it on the radio. Post-game show after the game, Jay Barker and I and Clint Lamb. So a lot of stuff going on, and we appreciate all of you guys hanging out with us here and being a part of it. So like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and join Bone. Bamainsider.com on $3. Gets you an entire year. Or if you just want to dip your toe in, see if you like it, $1 for 4 months. That's Bamainsider.com now that we're part of On3. And Sean says, hey, man, it's fire. I agree. I've been absolutely blown away with the amount of talent that we have around us now at On3. And, to be honest, where we were before, we kind of did our own thing, but you felt like kind of outside of what we were doing, the team wasn't that strong. It was like, maybe one part of the team was like Alabama, and then it was like playing at Vanderbilt. We're looking at the women's soccer team for a kicker. You come to On3, and boom, all of a sudden you're there's better parts than you, and it really makes you raise your game because there's just so much stability all around you guys. So that's going to translate in recruiting. That's going to be national coverage as well. And then also what we do at Bamainsider.com. So do me a favor, do yourself a favor, and check it out. All right, you keep talking about Florida. Not quite there yet, but they're in the mix on a lot of guys. One player, Bone, Jaren Hamilton, is from Gainesville, Florida, and Alabama is trying to get this wide receiver. Would it be a coup if they swooped in there and got this guy out of the Gators' backyard?
You know, the interesting thing about Florida is I think they have like 4 or 5 wide receiver commitments, so there's not a major push on Jaren right now. Now, that could change easily. This is a very exciting, electric football player. He's got great speed, ran a 4.40 at Alabama summer camp. They really liked him a lot during camp. I mean, you know, this was a guy who really moved up their recruiting board. I think they probably would have taken a commitment from him back in the summer if he was ready to decide. He wasn't. So it gave them an opportunity to watch him a little bit more this football season, see some senior highlights, you know, go to a game. He really impressed them throughout this season so far with his home run speed right there. This is a guy who they are continuing to press for. They continue to like a lot, even though, you know, we kind of went into this recruiting cycle after Alabama signed 5 wide receivers. I think it was 5 top 100 wide receivers in last year's class, and we've seen a lot of those freshmen play already this season. We kind of went into this cycle thinking, you know, there's probably no way they're going to take more than 3. They got, you know, 3 guys that they really like a lot. Cole Adams, Malik Benson, who's the #1 junior college player in the country. And then they go into Texas and steal Jalen Hale away from the Longhorns. People thought they were done. They're not done. I don't think that they're going to, you know, get another receiver except for Jaren Hamilton. I think Jaren Hamilton is an Alabama lean. He hasn't said that publicly or privately, but I don't think that, you know, he's putting anything out there as far as a leader or anything. He's going to take some more visits, enjoy it. But, you know, he came up to Tuscaloosa this past weekend on his own dime. And he's going to be coming back to Alabama for the Iron Bowl weekend for his official visit. I think probably shortly after that, we're going to see a decision from him. He took a visit to Tennessee last month. He's going to be visiting Michigan here in the next couple of weeks. I think he's going to take a trip out to USC as well. But in the end, I like Alabama's chances with Jaren Hamilton. I think the way that they've recruited him, the way that they've remained in very steady contact, you know, him coming back to Tuscaloosa this past weekend, I thought that was big for Alabama because the original plan was for him to wait until the official visit, but he decided to come up with his father. You know, they had a great time. Obviously, he loves the way that Alabama develops at the receiver position, and you know, we keep talking about, you know, the numbers and everything. And you know, this is once again, don't worry about the numbers. They're going to be able to fit these guys in. And Jaren Hamilton is definitely a guy that they like a lot. And I think, you know, when he gets ready to make that decision, he's going to have a spot in Alabama's class.
No, that's good news. Let me pop this up here for you, Bone. If it's a super chat from David, Elijah Brown from Mater Day, is Bama after him? Just anything you know on that, and then we'll. I got another really good one here talking about wide receivers that I'm curious about.
Well, thank you, David, for the tip. We really appreciate that, man. You know, as far as Elijah Brown, you know, this is a guy who received an offer from Alabama. I think it was back in the spring. I don't think it was during the summer. They had hoped that he would have made it to Tuscaloosa for summer camp. Did not make it. Hasn't made it to a game this season, but I know that they are recruiting him. You know, probably not one of those guys right now that could call Coach Saban up and commit. Not a lot of those guys out there just yet. You know, especially at quarterback. There might be 2 or 3 of those guys at the quarterback position who have that ability to do that. But you know, I think with Alabama having 2 quarterback commitments right now with Eli Holstein, Dylan Lonergan, and you know, a lot of these bigger name type guys that are out there, you know, sometimes they'll scare them off. I mean, not necessarily scare them off, but hey, you signed 2 quarterbacks last year. I'm going to go somewhere that
right.
You may have just signed 1 or they didn't sign any. So, you know, we'll kind of see how things go the rest of this year. There's going to be 2 elite guys who are going to be visiting Alabama over the course of the next month and a half, and that's DJ Lagway out of Texas. He plans on making a trip up to Tuscaloosa, and then Julian Sain, who is who's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, also out of California, made a trip to Tuscaloosa back in the spring. So he's going to be making his second trip to Alabama next weekend. So Alabama's probably going to see where things are with those guys. Jayden Davis is another guy that they really like out of North Carolina. Michael Van Buren out of St. Francis in Baltimore, another guy that's on that list, probably in that top 7-8 range as far as quarterbacks are concerned. But yeah, I mean, he is definitely one of those guys that they are looking at, that they're going to evaluate. But they also want to get him to campus and see him in person, and let him throw for the coaching staff. And you just never know, how things may shake out, over the course of the next few months. Especially if, what if Bill O'Brien ends up getting a head coaching job somewhere and decides to leave? And you potentially bring in a new offensive coordinator who wants to sit down and evaluate all the quarterback targets that are out there.
Right.
Maybe that offensive coordinator already has a special relationship with somebody already that's a 5-star. He might be committed somewhere else right now. You just never know how it all may shake out. So, Alabama doesn't really press hard for these early commitments. We've seen some early commitments in the 24 class already, but they don't necessarily press hard for them just yet. We saw a 2025 commitment happen over the weekend, which is kind of surprising, but not necessarily as far as a guy who was considered a heavy lean towards the Crimson Tide. But yeah, I think the quarterback position is going to be an interesting one in this next class, just because of Alabama signing 2 quarterbacks this year. Who's going to want to jump on board and follow that? We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, look, you touched on it. Now it's time to talk about it. We're already signing guys for the class of 2025, and that was Saraland star Ryan Williams, only a sophomore. Were you surprised at all that he's committed to coming to Alabama?
I knew Alabama was in really good position with him. He received an offer during the summer. This was certainly a guy that, in my opinion, could potentially be the number 1 wide receiver in his recruiting class. Already number 3 wide receiver right there in the country, according to the On3 consensus. But I think, when it comes down to it, he's certainly going to be in contention for that number 1 spot, because he is an electric, elite football player. I mean, he matched up against Perry Thompson, another Alabama commitment in the 2024 class a few weeks ago. Just absolutely had a great game. I think he had 3 touchdown receptions that game. I mean, this is a big time player, and Alabama's certainly excited to get him on board. They're obviously going to have to fight off some other teams, because I don't think schools are going to stop recruiting him at all. But he's been to Tuscaloosa a bunch of times already. He's really comfortable with the coaching staff. Obviously the wide receiver tradition there, especially recently, is something that really speaks to him. His father, it's crazy, man. You stay in this industry long enough, you're bound to start interviewing kids that you used to cover their fathers in this business. And, this is the first one, I guess, for me, just because I guess Dre Kirkpatrick's son as well. But as far as a guy that, is an Alabama commitment, I mean, this is just kind of crazy, because I spoke to his father a bunch of times back when he was in high school down at BC Rain in Mobile. He ended up signing with Auburn, ended up transferring, but signed with Auburn out of high school. And, Ryan Williams Sr. was he was a great guy. One of my favorite recruits back in the day to ever speak with. And now seeing his son, it's kind of crazy. So a big pickup for Alabama with Ryan Williams. Definitely a guy that, like I said, I think he's going to be one of those 5-star type kids. I think he's easily going to be, right now you look at the consensus, rankings on there. I think look at it. I think it's number 5 overall in the state. I think he's the best player in the state in 2025. There's some really good talent in that 2025 class. I mean, Alvin Henderson out of Elba just rushed for 412 yards last Friday night. Zion Grady, another elite edge rusher, definitely one of the top kids in the state. Anquan Fagans, defensive back out of Thompson. There's just a really good group of 2025 kids in the state of Alabama that are going to have a lot of good opportunities. But in my opinion, as of right now, I think Ryan Williams is the number one player in the state. I think he's in line to potentially be the number one receiver in the country.
All right, let's get into this. On Saturday, third Saturday in October, always means Alabama against Tennessee. We haven't seen a lot of Alabama and Tennessee recruiting battles, not like it used to be, but we're starting to see some, right? To'o was one. He picked Tennessee, transferred to Alabama. He's with Alabama right now. Tell us about some of these battles.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think anytime you start having success on the field, you start putting up a lot of points, and you start getting your fan base and your program back to a little bit of prominence. It's certainly going to attract recruits, and it certainly has attracted some top recruits in this year's class. We're seeing some recruiting battles. Definitely. I mean, Jaren Hamilton's one of them. David Hobbs is another. Hobbs, I think his top three right now is Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. Has visited Tennessee probably more so than he has Alabama and Georgia. Now, he's actually scheduled to visit Alabama next weekend for his official visit. Supposed to be in Tuscaloosa or had considered taking an unofficial visit to Alabama this past weekend. Ended up not making it, but he'll be in town next weekend for the official visit. This is definitely a guy that Alabama wants, but Tennessee right there in the mix. So is Georgia. And then, in the state of Tennessee, Arion Carter, who we mentioned earlier, another guy that, moving up a lot of recruiting boards, including Alabama and Tennessee. So Alabama's certainly hoping they can go into Tennessee, flip a Memphis commitment who is strongly considering Alabama, the Volunteers, LSU, Michigan, and several other schools. So we'll see how things unfold with Arion Carter over the next. A lot of these guys. I mean, you think about it right now. We're in mid-October. Signing day is just 2 months away. The early signing period is 2 months away. So we're going to see a lot of decisions happening over the course of the next couple months. We'll see if some of these guys decide to stretch it out into that early signing period. But I got a feeling we're going to see a lot of decisions happening between now and late November, because I think once kids finish taking their official visits, they wrap things up. They want to kind of focus on either early graduation. Maybe they're playing in a postseason All-Star game. Maybe they're playing in the state playoffs, state championship. They want to get those decisions over with so they can give complete focus to some of that stuff. So we're probably going to see a lot of decisions happen before the early signing period. I still think we're going to see some bigger decisions happen during that early signing period, including guys like Quay Russo, James Smith, Cormani McLean. But I do think, David Hobbs, Keon Keeley, some of those guys are probably going to be deciding within the next month and a half or so.
All right. Well, Alabama and Tennessee coming up 2:30 Central Time this Saturday, but the recruiting battle has a couple more months to go before we know exactly how everything's officially going to figure out. All right, one more last super chat, again from David. What about Trey Holly, running back from Union? Any information on him, Bone? I guess he's committed to LSU right now. Can we flip him?
Honestly, I don't even really know much about Trey. I wish I did. I'd give you $2 back if you want it. But you try to remember so many different guys, but you're so zoned into just the guys that are on Alabama's radar that they're pressing hard for, that they really want.
He doesn't even have anyone else on the list here.
What year is that in? 2025?
2023.
2023, yeah. I mean, with a 2023 running back, my focus has been on basically two guys for the last 8 months, and that's Justice Haynes and Richard Young. And Alabama was able to get both of those guys on board. I think both of them are very solid with their commitments. They had both of them in Tuscaloosa this past weekend for their official, or not for their official, but for unofficial visits. I spoke to Justice Haynes' father yesterday about the visit. I mean, they are so locked in with Alabama. Everybody thinks that because he's a Georgia legacy, he's going to end up flipping. He's number 2 player in the state of Georgia, with Caleb Downs being number 1. They're both going to end up flipping by signing day. But from talking to those guys, talking to people around them, talking to everybody that I talk to, I just feel like both of those guys are very solid, with their decision. But as far as running backs concerned, Justice Haynes, Richard Young, those are the 2 guys in Alabama's class. Alabama's not going to do anything to mess that up either. They're not going to recruit any other running backs. They are locked. Alabama's locked into these guys, and they're locked into Alabama.
Wow. Okay. All right, Bone, tell everyone why they should go ahead and subscribe to Bamainsider.com now that we're part of On3.
Well, for one, you get to talk to me every single day, not just on Tuesday nights. You can come on the board right now, ask me a question, I'll talk to you. We don't talk just about football. We don't talk just about basketball or recruiting. We do it all. We talk about everything. I mean, there's probably somebody on there right now talking about, that horrible Dahmer Netflix show.
I haven't seen that yet. Have you?
It's creepy for me. My wife likes it. I don't like it, but
you look disturbed, Bone. Did you catch just enough of it to get freaked out?
Yeah, pretty much.
He ate people and stuff, right?
Yeah, he ate people.
Whoa.
It was weird. But yeah,
well, this will make you feel better. $5 from David. Hey, thanks, David. Roll Tide, brother.
Good. Well, I'm glad for him, but he'll do well. He'll do well at LSU. They all got some good running backs. But yeah, I mean, you go on Bama Insider right now, you get a chance to read up on everything Keon Keeley said about his official visit. We have the Miles McVay interview. We have Centurion Perkins interview. My insider report is on there right now. I've got Vern Haynes interview coming tomorrow about their trip. We've got KJ Bolden, 5-star wide receiver who visited Alabama last weekend. Got an interview with him coming out. Joseph delivers every single day. He's on the road going out, seeing high school, going to high school, seeing kids. And like I said, he was at Tampa Airport meeting Keon Keeley yesterday. That wasn't just him being creepy or anything like that. Don't think that. Keon Keeley and his mom asked him to come there and meet with him once they landed. So props to Joseph for going out and doing that. Clint Lamb always delivering on the team coverage, and then our guy Jimmy Stein on the message board just running the show there. So there's a lot of fun on BamaInsider.com. So if you want to come join the site, be a part of our network, this is just part of it. This is a very small percentage of what BamaInsider.com is. It's our YouTube channel. Come over to Bama Insider, join our community. We'd love to have you. It's only $10 for an entire year. If you don't like it, you can cancel it at any time. But like Nick said earlier, you want just a little bit of a taste, see how it is, just pay $1 for free. You get all of our content on there for free. But anytime people come over there, I think they realize how great it is, how good the interaction is with our entire team, but you also get to interact with thousands of Alabama fans. And, we got a ticket exchange board on there as well. So if you're looking for some tickets, you can jump on that as well. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on BamaInsider.com. So come check us out.
All right. Bone said it. Right now, $10 for a year, BamaInsider.com, $1 4 months. Find out for yourself. That does it for our show tonight, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying you love Bone and you love the information that you got here tonight on Alabama's recruiting class. Not just this year, but Bone even got all the way down to 2025. So you heard that tonight on the show. Don't forget, every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, Bone will give you an update on recruiting. You have all Nick Saban's press conferences. We put those up here for you. They're clear and they're on time, and you want to check those out, we'll have those for you. We got shows really every single day of the week. Jay Barker and I will be back on Thursday. Kyle Henderson pops on with shows. Friday night, if you're going to the game or if you're in East Tennessee, swing by Trotter's Whole Hog. That's where we're going to be, Bone. And it's not a misprint. It is a place in downtown Sevierville called Trotter's Whole Hog. It's actually a brand new barbecue place. And they have, if you like craft beers, they got all those up there. But where you can go,
you're gonna be mad at me.
Come on, Bone.
No, you're gonna be real mad at me.
You don't like barbecue?
No. Guess where I'm gonna be this weekend?
Where's that?
The Bama Yacht Club.
Oh man, yeah, I am gonna be mad at you. Well, you know what? I team up with Visit Sevierville, so every other year, I go to Tennessee and I visit Sevierville for a show. But I'll be back there when Alabama plays LSU and plays Ole Miss. And any of you guys that are hanging out are welcome to come down and hang out with us. I was blown away by how many of you guys showed up to Innisfree last week. So look, keep coming and hanging out, man. Have a beer. If you're of age, get something to eat. Whether it's at Bama, Innisfree, Unique, or wherever we're going to be. Trotter's Whole Hog. We love seeing stories that you tell about watching the shows and being part of our channel. So that's where we're going to be 6 to 8 Eastern time this week for the show. So we'll do it Eastern time since we're in the Eastern time zone, and we want you to hang out with us as well. And then Jay Barker and I will be on after the game with our post-game show. We wait until there's double zeros this year on the clock, and then we go live and we talk about it. So we'll be talking about Alabama and Tennessee as the Crimson Tide have their toughest task of the season, number 3 versus number 6 in Neyland Stadium. So, Bone, you enjoy the Bama. I am going to be mad at you. I wish you were down there when I was down there so we could have bushwhackers knowing that there's a floater. Because if you don't know that, bad things tend to happen.
That's right.
Special thanks to Chris Daughtry behind the scene, for Kyle Henderson, and all of you guys hanging out. For Andrew Bone, I'm Mick Gillespie. Thanks for watching Recruiting with Andrew Bone. Roll Tide, everybody. Talk to you again next Tuesday at 8 o'clock.